Hello everyone, welcome. This is a more formal, I guess, SM Squared video.
Yes, look at us.
Look at us,
Dapper.
dressed in our
Sunday
Sunday dandies. We are bringing some information to your Saturday, and this is something that I don't know how often. We like to create all different kinds of things, in case you haven't figured that out about us yet. And something we've recently decided to dive into is kind of budgeting, figuring out a budget, learning how to budget,
That's right.
saying it again.
For the month of May, we decided that we were going to actually take stock in everything that we did, and be sure to actually write down the transactions and see like the money in and the money out.
Yeah.
More so than just looking at your bank account and seeing
The
I have this much money in my checking account. We didn't get too far into specifics about what exactly it was. It's not like we were like, we can only spend this much on groceries. We weren't super strict about it, but it was just a simple, hey, where are we seeing the positive and where are we seeing the negative? Are we net positive for the most part, or are loans, rent,
Life,
utilities, and just like those typical monthly costs, are they putting us closer to the red than anybody really wants to comfortably be? And after doing it for a month, we realized, let's do it for a whole year and see how living with a budget constantly in mind and constantly thinking about it, and seeing like how we can benefit from it.
Obviously, when we started this, we wanted to kind of gauge where we were at. And also, especially for me personally, it was about kind of getting comfortable talking about money. Because that's a topic that really stresses me out. So we'll dive into 5 tips that we are hoping to kind of gain, or 5 things that we think we'll learn or get better at in the coming year roughly of doing this.
Yeah, we are by no means experts.
Obviously not.
So that's why we're going to kind of document this stuff. Are you serious? That's why we're going to document stuff as the year goes along. Number one.
What's
the first thing we're hoping
is, and these are in no particular order, but being better prepared for upcoming large purchases. Yeah,
so just in our situation, we have a couple of big things. Shelby obviously being a graphic design person, he needs access to the various softwares and stuff like that, and those softwares aren't cheap, especially the Adobe suite. So just kind of taking purchases like that. We also are in need of new computers pretty soon. If you need a car, if you need those concert tickets, whatever. It's all a matter of just knowing what those big purchases are and kind of planning around those and making sure that you're going to be prepared to get those when you absolutely need them.
I mean, I think as of right now, what we really just did was we talked through any possible upcoming costs we saw coming, whether it was completely planned in, like the Adobe purchase, or if you have a piece of equipment like a computer that you see possibly needing to be replaced in the near future. You're preparing for it and you're like, my computer will probably take a shit any moment, and I'm just going to start planning and be ready to purchase a new computer if that's something you need.
Always keeping those big purchases in the back of your mind. Just like for us, like we have a trip coming up, it's called the PlayStation 5. Another thing that maybe people don't keep in mind particularly are like the big months where you're going to end up spending a lot. So your holiday season specifically is probably a big one.
Yeah, that brings us into tip number 2. Good lead-in, my fam. Obviously building habits, or you could say kind of being very conservative in the off months, if you will, to prepare yourself for those big spending months. Generally in America, and I'd say probably most countries, you're going to spend probably more money in the fall, winter, because, Christmas, Black Friday, all the things. But I mean, for whatever that is in your calendar year that you spend more money than usual, you can kind of be more conservative in the off months.
Some of the stuff that we more wants than needs are things that we're going to be better off just waiting until the best possible deal comes, and then pouncing on that.
Moving on to point number 3. This is something I know like Spencer pays attention to. This is something I never ever pay attention to, but planning for a 5-week month, depending on how your paychecks lay, basically.
So basically, something to think about is when you have a 5-week month, you're getting an extra paycheck. If you're paid bi-weekly, that can be especially crucial. So I was explaining it to Shelby. If you're paid $1,000 weekly, right? And it's a 5-week month, it's $5,000. If it's a 4-week month, it's $4,000. It's really not that big of a difference. But if you're paid bi-weekly and you're getting $2,000 each time you're paid, 5-week month means you could be getting $6,000. And again, you're kind of splitting hairs, but we just had a 5-week month with May,
5-week month, yeah.
where I'm paid bi-weekly, so I got 3 paychecks, and that was huge because, again, typically I'm expecting my normal amount each month, and now to get 1.5 times that
right
is actually really big. So if you can kind of keep off any big purchases, even if they're a necessity, until right after a 5-week month when your bank account's a little more padded, absolutely crucial. It can be a really good month to help pad everything and kind of start to give you a buffer and help you feel like you aren't so close again to that red.
All right, on to point number 4. This is kind of what I was getting at in the beginning, where I think this will be really helpful for me. Visualizing your money situation kind of helps bring a reality to it. It's not something you can necessarily avoid when you're having to look at it and kind of keep track at it. Even if that means you want to change the situation you're in, bringing light to where you're at can help you set up a plan to possibly change that for whatever your goals are.
Yeah. Writing stuff out is extremely crucial and extremely helpful, I think. There's plenty of different apps and services that will allow you to put like literal dollar amounts in these jars, and you can keep track of where your money is. So you're not just looking at your bank account and it's saying $1,000. You can actually break that down even further and go, okay, well, I have $1,000, but I know that 45 of that is going towards concert tickets that I want, and then 75 of that is towards my car, and then you get your next paycheck and you divvy it up into those jars.
Oh, also by visualizing it, you're truly, and like it helps that like writing out what that money is going towards, to find any like weird places where you're like, I forgot I had this subscription that I never use and it's sucking $15 out of my account like every single month. I know some people can kind of fall into that trap where you really start to reevaluate how much you use things that you're paying for to maybe adjust your financial choices for down the road. Last point, number 5, that I thought was definitely very good and very good for us to say as a couple who is living together, kind of creating an open conversation about money, especially in a relationship. And this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a friendship if you are living with a friend or anything.
And obviously with us, we don't have a shared bank account, but obviously for the most part, our financials are what's mine is yours in a certain way.
Right.
We split costs pretty evenly, and one person paying more for one thing typically is made up by the other person paying more for another. Obviously, it's going to be different for everybody.
Right.
But just keeping an open communication can be so good, and it sets the plan for both of you. Splitting those things and making sure you're both on the same page and contributing and understanding where everything's at is like super, super key.
And especially if you're living together, that's a huge commitment, and money is like always number 1. I think to anyone who ever is like, I'm thinking of moving in with someone, I'm like, make sure they're gonna pay you, like if you're splitting, or like don't do it. Like you need to have that financial trust in someone, or it's just gonna be a disaster. Also, in my opinion, it helps if you're someone who might be a bit of a spontaneous spender, aka what I used to be and can still be occasionally. It kind of gives you a buffer. It's someone who you're already confident talking about money with, for you to be like, hey, is this stupid if I buy this? And that person will hopefully like understand you, understand what you've been buying, not buying recently, and be able to make a very good decision if you're kind of in this fling of just wanting to spend money.
If you're already asking that, there's a good chance that it is, right?
Yeah.
But if you can actually formulate the sentence to prove why it's worth it, then it probably is worth it, or worth it enough, I guess.
Right. I mean, to a degree.
So yeah, and like the other person can kind of talk you off the ledge.
But yeah, so I think that's mostly it. Hopefully these were relatively well explained for you to understand. It's always just about kind of bringing reality to a situation that people should just be aware of. Not saying crazy shit doesn't happen, but doing the best you can to be ready for anything that might come up. Yes.
One other thing I want to say is, I kind of brought up to you when we started doing this, and the thing to kind of keep in mind is, if I broke my arm, would I be okay?
Right.
So if you break a bone or something, you may not be able to work, you may not be able to do certain things to bring in money, and then you're also going to be bleeding money a little bit.
Right.
That's obviously an extreme situation that you most likely
hopefully
won't find yourself in. But if you're working paycheck to paycheck and you're spending your money spontaneously on things that you don't necessarily need, you're hurting yourself if a situation like that were to occur. You then suddenly realize that you'll have more than you need, and suddenly making a spontaneous purchase is a lot easier.
Right. I think that's it.
All right.
Like I said, we planned for this just to be kind of a learning experience. So these are just going in what we feel we'll gain, and hopefully we do, and hopefully we gain a lot more than this. So like we said, maybe a halfway checkpoint, but for sure, hopefully a year end, kind of like how has our system evolved? Have we really found we needed it? Has it just changed our habits completely?
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, we hope to kind of film little updates and give you them along the way.
But this is something that we're doing that we're hoping we can learn a lot from, and we can kind of pass the learnings and savings on to you.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions or anything else that you think will help us make this easier, let us know, because we'll definitely throw those in to our little updates. If you're also going to try and do something like this, we'd love to hear, or if you have recently, how it went, if you saw the benefits in it, or if you felt like it was kind of a dark cloud hanging over you constantly that was keeping you from doing the things that you wanted to do. All things to keep in mind. So definitely let us know. We want to hear about it, and more than happy to have that conversation back and forth discussing it.
With that, we'll see you in the next video. Cha-ching!